Welcome, friends. Some questions which are very short in nature, you have to answer them to the point. So I am here with to the point answer of the some specific questions. First is functions of money. So first function of money is it is a medium of exchange. Money is used to buy and sell goods and services. It removes the difficulties of the barter system. For example, instead of exchanging wheat for cloth, you sell wheat for money and use that money to buy cloth. Second is measure of value, that is unit of account. Money provides a common standard to measure the value of all goods and services. For example, a book costs rupees 500 and a pen costs rupees 20, so their values can be compared easily. Third is store of value. Money can be saved and used in the future, so keeping money in a bank account for future needs is the store of value function of money. Fourth is it is standard of deferred payments. So money helps in settling future payments such as loans and installments like home loan EMIs are paid on money over several years. So this is a very short answer of functions of money. You can remember this. So we are not going in details of primary and secondary function of money and like that. Second question is central bank and its functions. So in India, central bank is the Reserve Bank of India. Main function is first issue of currency. RBI issues currency notes on behalf of Government of India. Second is bankers bank. Commercial banks keep reserves with RBI and borrow funds from it when needed. So it is bankers bank. Third is government's banker. RBI manages government accounts and public debt. Fourth is controller of credit. RBI controls the supply of money and credit in the economy. Fifth is lender of last resort. When commercial banks face financial difficulties, RBI provides emergency loans. Sixth is custodian of foreign exchange. RBI manages India's foreign exchange reserves. Seventh is clearinghouse function. RBI facilitates settlement of interbank transactions. Now, third question, just it is ready, reckoner to remember. You have to elaborate the answers. Okay. So third question is credit control measures of RBI. RBI regulates credit through qualitative and quantitative methods. So quantitative methods are bank rate. It is the rate at which RBI lends to commercial banks for long-term purposes. I am not here going to discuss what is bank rate at present, what is repo rate at present. So it will be in another video. Second is repo rate, the rate at which banks borrow short-term funds from RBI against securities. Third is reverse repo rate. Reverse repo rate is the rate at which RBI borrows money from banks. Repo rate, banks borrow, RBI borrows from banks is reverse repo rate. And next is open market operations, also known as OMO, purchase and sale of government securities by RBI. Buying securities, when government RBI buys securities, it injects money in the economy and money supply increases. Selling securities, it takes money from the banks or public, so it is money supply decreases. It deals with banks, not from public. And cash reserve ratio, CRR, banks must keep a certain percentage of deposits with RBI. Next is statutory liquidity ratio, SLR. Banks must maintain a specified percentage of deposits with in liquid assets with RBI. Qualitative methods are margin requirements. RBI charges loan margins to regulate borrowing. So whenever you go to purchase something from like car, house, you have to give a certain margin money to get the loan from the banks. Moral suasion, RBI persuades banks to follow its policy directions. Direct action, RBI can penalize banks that violate the regulations. Now we come to the another question, that is supply of money. Monetary aggregates. So what are they? It is very important for exam. So first is in the different measures of money supply. M1 is called narrow money. It includes currency with public demand, deposits with commercial bank. This is the most liquid form of money. M2 is equal to M1 plus savings deposits with post office savings banks. Third is M3. You have to remember this. M3 is called broad money because it includes M1 plus net deposits with commercial banks. M3 is the most commonly used measure of money supply in India. M4 is M3 plus total deposits with post office savings organizations. So relationship between M1, M2, M3, M4 is like that. M1 is less than M2, M2 is less than M3, and M3 is less than M4. As we move from M1 to M4, liquidity decreases and coverage increases. Next is money creation by commercial banks. How many commercial banks create credit through lending? So commercial banks create credit through lending. It is called credit multiplier. Credit multiplier's formula is credit multiplier is equal to 1 by LRR, where LRR is legal reserve ratio. So we can understand with an example, if LRR is given 20%, that is 0.20, then credit multiplier will be 1 by LLR, so it will be 1 by 0.20 is equal to 5. It means if rupees 1,000 deposited in a bank can ultimately create up to rupees 5,000 of total deposit in the banking system. So process of credit creation is like this. One person deposit rupees 1,000 in bank A. Bank keeps 20 as reserve because LRR is 20%. Bank lends rupees 800. Borrower spends 800. Receiver deposits 800 in another bank. This process continues, and thus bank create multiplier deposit and expand the money supply. So you have to remember these things for CUET, UGC banking exams. That is, M1 is currency plus demand deposit. M3 is most important measure of money supply. RBI is the lender of last resort. Repo rate increases, then loan becomes costly and money supply falls. CRR increases, lending capacity of bank falls. Credit multiplier is equal to 1 by LRR. Money's four functions are exchange, measure of value, store of value, and deferred payments. So I think it is easy for you to remember. Then we come to macroeconomics portion, where aggregate demand or AD is the total planned expenditure on goods and services in an economy during a given period. Formula is AD is equal to C plus I plus G plus into X minus M, that is net export. So C is consumption expenditure, I is investment expenditure, G is government expenditure, X is export, and M is import. For example, suppose consumption is 500 crore, investment is 200 crore, government expenditure is 100 crore, and export is 50 crore, and import is 30 crore. Then AD will be 500 plus 200 plus 100 plus 50 minus 30. So AD will be 820 crore. This means that total spending demand in the economy is 820 crore rupees. Second is short run equilibrium. According to Keynes, equilibrium income occurs when equilibrium condition is AD is equal to AS. AD is aggregate demand, AS is aggregate supply. At the equilibrium point, planned expenditure equals planned output. No tendency for income to change. Suppose we will understand with an example. Suppose if firm produce a good worth rupees 1,000 crore and consumers, firms, government and foreigners together demand exactly 1,000 crore, the economy is in equilibrium. It is rare, but third is method of determining equilibrium income. So it can be done through graphic method where income is measured on x-axis and expenditure on y-axis. Equilibrium occurs when aggregate demand curve intersects. Demand curve is downward sloping, cuts aggregate supply curve, which is 45-degree line, which originates from origin, and intersection point gives equilibrium income. If AD curve cuts 45-degree line at 2,000 rupees crore, equilibrium of national income will be rupees 2,000 crore. So through algebra, it will be like this. Y is equal to C plus I. Suppose C is given as 100 plus 0.8y and I is 200. Then y will be 100.8y plus 200. Then we will have to find y. So y minus 0.8y, 0.8y come left side and it will become 300, 200 plus 1. So 0.2y is equal to 300. So y will be 300 divided by 0.2 or 2 by 10. So 10 will go up above. So it will become y is equal to 1500. So equilibrium income will be rupees 1500. Now we come to next concept, propensity to consume of consumption function. It shows the relationship between income and consumption. So APC, average propensity to consume, is the ratio of total consumption to total income. So APC formula is APC is equal to C by Y. C is the total consumption, Y is the total income. So suppose income is given 10,000 and consumption is rupees 8,000. APC will be rupees 8,000 by 10,000 is equal to 0.8, meaning 80% of income is consumed. Next is marginal propensity to consume, that is MPC. It shows how much additional consumption results from additional income. So MPC is delta C by delta Y. Suppose income rises from 10,000 to 12,000. Consumption will also rise from 8,000 to 9,600. So MPC will be 1,600 divided by 2,000, because 1,600 consumption has increased and 2,000 income has increased. So meaning is people spend 80% of additional income. Now, propensity to save, saving function shows the relationship between income and saving. So average propensity to save is APS is equal to S by Y. Suppose income is 10,000 and saving is 2,000, then APS will be 2,000 divided by 10,000 is equal to 0.2, meaning 20% of income is saved. Now comes marginal propensity to save. It is MPS is equal to delta S by delta Y. This is why suppose income rises by rupees 2,000 and savings rises by rupees 4,000. Then marginal propensity to consume will be rupees 4,000 divided by rupees 2,000 is equal to 0.2. That is 20% of additional income is saved. So we have to always remember that MPC plus MPS is always equal to 1. So all increase is not invested, or neither invested nor saved. So if MPC is 0.8, then MPS will be 0.2. So now we come to investment multiplier. In short, we are taking on. Investment multiplier shows how much national income changes due to change in investment. So formula is K is equal to delta Y by delta I. Delta Y is equal to 1 by 1 minus MPC is equal to 1 by MPS. So for example, MPC is 0.8, then multiplier will be K is equal to 1 by 1 minus MPC. So it will be 1 by 1 minus 0.8. Then K will be 5. If investment increases by 100 crore, rupees 100 crore, then increase in income will be 5 into 100. So it will be rupees 500 crore. So rupees 100 crore investment generates 500 crore national income. Now we come to full employment. What is full employment? Full employment does not mean zero unemployment. It means unemployment is there. All persons willing. What does it mean? It means all persons willing and able to work at prevailing wage can get jobs, but not guaranteed that all are getting jobs. Suppose labor force is 1 crore people and 98 lakh are employed. 2 lakhs temporarily changing jobs. This can still be considered as near full employment. Now, involuntary unemployment occurs when people are willing to work at prevailing wage but not getting jobs. So suppose a worker is ready to work for rupees 500 per day, but no employer hires him. This is involuntary unemployment. According to Keynes, insufficient aggregate demand causes involuntary unemployment. Excess demand occurs when aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply at full employment. So there is no scope of increasing the supply because there is full employment. What will happen? Prices will rise, inflation occur, shortage of goods is there, pressure on resources. So we will understand with an example. Suppose demand is 12,000 crore and supply is 10,000 crore. So excess demand is rupees 2,000 crore. Result is inflationary pressure. Now deficient demand occurs when aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply. What happens? Excess inventories, falling prices, reduced production and unemployment. Demand is rupees 8,000 crore and supply is rupees 10,000 crore. So deficient demand is rupees 2,000 crore. Result, recession and unemployment. Now measures to correct excess demand. First, increase taxes. Second, reduce government expenditure. Increase CRR and SLR is the third option so that loans can be reduced. Banks grant less loans so that money will not circulate in the economy. Fourth is increase in interest rates. And fifth is reduce money supply. RBI raises repo rate from 6 to 7%. Loans become costly and spending falls. Inflation reduces. Measures to control deficient demand: increase government expenditures. First, second, reduce taxes. Third, lower interest rates. Increase money supply, and fifth, encourage investment. Government launches infrastructure projects with rupees 10,000 crore. It will create employment and thereby income rises and demand rises. So quick exam revision is AD is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Equilibrium is at where F aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. APC is C by Y. MPC is delta C by delta Y. APS is S by Y. MPS is delta S by delta Y. MPC plus MPS is equal to 1. Multiplier is K is equal to 1 by 1 minus MPC or 1 by MPS. Excess demand causes inflation. Deficient demand causes unemployment. Keynes explained involuntary unemployment through inadequate aggregate demand. So these are the most important concepts for all competitive exams of economics, CUET, IGNOU, MEC, UGC, NET Economics, SSC and UPCL. If you like it, please share and subscribe.